Erin was in round one, and we've had the pleasure of knowing her for a long time in OPC, but it was just so fun to have you in eLevate. And so if you want to share your story quickly, I'd love to hear it. Love to share it with
Yeah,
people.
I came into Pilates as a dancer, and then kept up with it through prenatal and postpartum because it healed better than basically better than anything else. You know, you're given that 6 week, like, go ahead and do stuff, and things just like weren't stuffing. And the only person that asked me how I was healing was my Pilates teacher, and took care of my pelvic floor, really helped me out. So when I got into women's health, I'm like, I think that, I'm seeing all these things in PT that I know from being a physical therapist that translates over to Pilates, and I'm not making those connections. Like, I want to figure out how to help my PT patients with, Pilates, and how to help my Pilates clients with more PT. So I just needed kind of that bridge, that connection there. So that was my initial reason for applying for eLevate. And I was, like Raelle, a fairly newbie teacher. And I was like, oh my gosh, everyone's going to know so much more than me. And then you have these experienced teachers, and they're asking questions, and they're asking me questions. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, I did not think that we would have such a big community just learning from one another as of day one. So that was a big thing, to remove that pressure, be open to asking questions, because I think a lot of time, especially coming from a clinical background, like, we're taught, this is how it is, this is what you do, so you do it and you don't question it. And I think that's what I was really missing, was that why. And I was used to looking at bodies, but I wasn't used to, like, making those connections. Oh, if I see this, I can take them to the chair, I can take them to a reformer, and we can make things happen. And the other big thing was, like, just finding that freedom in client sessions. So I used to think I had to go in like with a plan, because again, recovering overachiever. So I have to go in with my plan. Here's what we're going to do today. And then the person comes in with like a different body that day. And I'm like, well, crap, my plan's out the window, and I'd be freaking out. Like, what am I going to do with this person? And eLevate just kind of changed that. Like, let's see where the body's at today. So I don't need a plan, because I have a framework, and I can just look at what the body is doing and come up with something that day. And same thing happened. I think we were about like a third of the way through eLevate, and the room that I needed wasn't available that day. All I had was a mat and a magic circle. And I was like, all right, we're gonna do a mat and a magic circle. And the person was like, this was so hard. I said, yeah, they're used to working on the equipment. They're thinking this kind of going to be a crap session because it's just the mat. And I was able to take them through what they needed and make it a really good session. So I think that having just the freedom to let go of planning and play more in my practice and more with my clients' practice, and just treat the body and see the body that's in front of me, has been really, really helpful since eLevate.
Erin, so thank you for sharing that you were like new and afraid of that, because like in your round, we had some people been teaching for like 20 years.
Yes.
And they did ask you questions, because this is the thing that's so important we need to realize. And I think it's really hard to do. Well, it's definitely, you can't do it on your own. You actually do need to do it in communities. Like, we all bring some value to the table, because we are all unique experience, and our experience affects how we see bodies move, how we feel our body move, and how we teach. And so it was so fun to have you in that room, because even though you're a newer teacher with your physio background, your pelvic floor background, people had questions that you could, and then you could fill it through what you were learning. And so it was just really cool, because in eLevate, it doesn't really matter if you've been teaching for a year or 20 years. We're all here to learn, and we're all here to find our own connection to the method with our process. And I love that you shared like that, because I think so many people have a plan. And I'm not kidding you guys. I used to be that person too. And they came with one fucking leg. So like one leg literally happened to me. And then another person, I was like, okay, I'm gonna teach this girl. I'm gonna do these things. She's ready for them right now. She came with a broken arm, cast up to her shoulder. And I was like, okay. And so I was like, well, fuck planning. This doesn't work for me. How do I do it? And like, so I just really love that we were able to give you that freedom to be confident in teaching her that. It's just so fun. And to seeing your practice change even over this last year that you've been outside of it has been a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had a question for you, Erin. before you came in to the program, being a new teacher, you mentioned, um, wanting to bring the fun into the physical therapy and then kind of apply some more clinical understanding into the Pilates
Mhm.
as your main reason for joining eLevate. But you had been teaching only a few years. Can you talk about like what it felt like going through the decision-making process to join eLevate? Like, were you worried? How did that feel?
Yeah, I was just weighing it back and forth because I honestly didn't think I was good enough. I'm like, oh, I haven't been doing this long enough. I'm not good enough to be in the room with these other teachers. Like, I don't want them to see what I'm doing because I had so much respect for, again, these other teachers that I knew of that have been teaching like 20, 30 years, and just like their expansive knowledge of the system and the method. And I just felt very intimidated by that. And it was completely unfounded then once I was there. So I was really glad that I did that because it took a lot of courage. And I think that that's a lot of what I learned in eLevate. Like Heather was saying before, it changed on a personal level, that it just helped me find my worth a lot, because I didn't think I was worthy to be on the same level as these more advanced teachers and more advanced bodies. And that kind of got like wiped away right away. And I really felt like I was worthy to teach this at the end of it. Even the stuff that I can't do, I can still teach, you know? So I think that that was a huge, huge part of my decision making, was just having that leap of faith that, yeah, I'm worthy to be in this room with everybody else.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that. Awesome. Thanks so much.